So what I try to do is give you a sample of that world, and that's what we're going to do right away. We're going to take you back now to the world of the Seanachie for a little while, and transport you in imagination across the great Atlantic Ocean and take you down to my remote part of Ireland. And we're going to turn the clock back, a long way back, 50 or more years. And even though my grandfather has been dead since 1962, we are going to resurrect him. And he's going to spin a story. I will take him on, his character, and spin a story for you in the style, in the idiom, and close enough to his accent. If you've had a problem understanding me up to now, take a coffee break for the next 5 or 6 minutes. But do the best you can, because if you don't understand me or react, I won't get paid by Todd. Now, let me see what's going to come out of the hat. I wonder, is there anyone sitting around this fireside tonight that could tell me how the Houlihan's from west of Dingle came to have the webbed fingers and the webbed toes? Looks like as if I'm not going to get any answer. Well, I might have the answer to that question either, except that I met a certain Teddy Houlihan at his father's wake near the town of Dingle one night, more years ago now than I care to remember. Indeed, the same Houlihans wouldn't tell you much, a fierce, tight-lipped crowd. But this night, Teddy took a drink or two over the quota, and wasn't I the lucky man to be perched beside him when his tongue was loosened. Well out into the night, when none of us were feeling too much pain, for it was a darn good wake, he leant over in the stool and says to me, "Did you ever hear how the fellow in the bed came to have the webbed fingers and the webbed toes?" Why, then I have many queer yarns in my lifetime, says I, but that was one story I never heard. And with that, he told me the full story. And that's the story that I'm going to tell to you people tonight. Now, it seems that Teddy Houlihan's grandfather, old Seanachie Houlihan, had a great eye for the women when he was a young man. It wasn't for nothing he was nicknamed Seanine Mon, or Johnine of the women. There wouldn't be a crossroads dance, a house dance, a fair or a pattern that Seanine wouldn't be there and be dressed up to kill, with a big wide American tie on him that would cover half the table for you, and enough hair oil in his head that would pollute the Atlantic or the Pacific Ocean. But in spite of all his dolling up, he was making very poor headway with the fair sex. An odd girl would dance a jig or a reel with him all right at a crossroads, but that would be the limit of her activity with him. Of course, he was not the most handsome man in the world. The man above, glory be to his blessed name, must have created him on the day of rest. But God help us, he was only about 4'5". And they say it is any human being's privilege to look ugly, but Seanine abused the privilege. He had an aunt working over in the Bronx in New York, and she sent him back a pair of those high American shoes with the big thick heels in them to give him a bit of a lift in the world. But God help us, it took him all his time to stay on top of the 2 shoes, not to mind go dancing jigs and reels in them at crossroads. Well, time wore on and the story was still the same, and his chances of getting married were getting slimmer and slimmer. One Sunday morning in the springtime of the year, he went down to the seashore. You see, he was a fisherman. The night before was stormy, and he wanted to secure his boat. And when he had tied up the boat, he was heading up into the high ground over the seashore to go into Mass on Sunday morning. And he took one more look back down at the boat. And what should he see, seated on top of the grey rock, but a beautiful mermaid, and she combing her golden locks with a herringbone. Oh God, this woman took the sight plain out of his eyes, and he stood there like a man enchanted, rooted to the ground. After a while he came to his senses, and what did he see but her capin driachta, her enchanted cap, thrown on the sand beside the rock. And Seanine had heard from an old Seanachie like myself that who could capture the capin driachta, the enchanted cap, she would be powerless to go down to the land under the sea. Seanine put 2 and 2 together in his own mind and says he to himself, if I can't get a woman on land, I'd only have to head for the sea. And with that he made a dash for the capin driachta. And the minute he got hold of it, the that man turned around in the grey rock and she let out this low, mournful scream out of her. Oh God, 'twould wake the dead. You'd have pity to hear it. I don't know whether Seanachie had pity or not, but he kept a firm grip of the copy and drifter until he'd see what way would things turn out. As he don't cry, my decent girl, taking her by the hand. And 'twas in no particular an ugly hand, except there was a web of skin between the fingers, such as you'd see in a duck's foot, and it was as thin and as white as the joining between the yolk and the shell of an egg. "What's your name?" says Seanachie to the mermaid, and he got no reply. And he was sure and certain that either she was a dummy or else she didn't understand him. So do you know what he did? He gave her hand a little bit of a squeeze. And of course that did it because there isn't a woman in the world, be she fish or lady, that don't understand that. It wasn't long until she stopped her whinging and whining, and when Seanachie told her that he'd a house with a slate roof, 3 cows, a donkey, a jinnet, hens, ducks, and a drake, she became a different girl altogether. She stepped down off the grey rock, threw herself up to her full height. She was as tall and as beautiful as the pirate queen Grace O'Malley. Seanachie straightened himself up as best he could. He didn't have far up to go. And still holding on to her hands to see, "Here's my word to you, fresh and fasting, my lady of the sea, would I make you Mrs. Seanachie Houlihan before the whole world if you're willing." "Don't say the word twice," says she. "I'm ready and willing. But first of all," she says, "you'll have to give me a chance to fix up my hair." I suppose she guessed she'd be going among people and that people would be looking at her. Now, like a lot more women, she was a heck of a long time fixing up the hair. And when she was finished, she bent down low over the waves and whispered something to the water. Seanachie could see the ripple of the words going out to the broad ocean. And he looked at her and he says, "Is it talking to the salt water you are?" "There's nothing else," says she. "I'm sending word down to my father in the land under the sea to tell him that I'm in safe hands, I've made a good match, and I've been the least bit worried about him." "Your father," says Seanachie? "Who's your father?" "I'd have you know," says she, "that my father is the king of the waves in the land under the sea." "Well, glory be to God," says Seanachie Houlihan. "I'm nothing but a maid man this blessed day, and the king your father. He must be a man of money. It's as plentiful by him," says she, "as the falling leaves of autumn. And all I would have to do was to send down, and that money would come up fine and plentiful." At that stage, Seanachie invited the mermaid up to the house for the cup of tea. And the two of them were going arm in arm up to the high ground over the seashore. And all of a sudden he says, "Bend down," he says, "hide, quick." What was it but his neighbours were going into Sunday morning mass? And 'twouldn't do for them to see Seanachie Houlihan parading a blonde mermaid up and down the seashore, which is inside the chapel he should be praying his rosary beads. They hid there until mass was over and until the congregation scattered. And then the two of them made the shortest tracks for the sacristy at the back of the chapel, while old Father Tom was disrobing after mass. Seanachie stood in front of the priest with the mermaid. He says, "Father," he says, "we've come to get married." The priest took one look at the bride-to-be. "Seanachie Houlihan," he says, "is it taking leave of your senses you are? Is it marry a scaly creature like that you would? How do we know where she came from?" "And anyway," says the priest, "she's far too tall for you." Seanachie stopped for a while. "Father," he says, "it's a pity, because she's the daughter of a king. And as regards her height, I suppose she won't be always standing. I don't care if she's the daughter of 40 kings. I can't marry you to her, for she's a fish." "A great pity, Father, a great pity entirely. For whatever priest ties the knot on the two of us, we'll make it worth his while. For Father's a man of money, 'tis as plentiful by him as the sands of the seashore." Old Father Tom hummed and he hawed for a while. None of them refused a bit of money. And to make a long story short for you, he decided to marry that couple. And they settled down to married life, the self-same as any couple that's listening to me here tonight. And God knows they weren't idle. It wasn't long until there were 3 or 4 children running around the kitchen floor. One Monday morning, in the month of November, Seanachie got up at dawn, hunted out 4 cows out of the field, and drove them to the fair at Dingle. He wasn't gone down the Boreen 10 minutes when And she got up. And after a quick breakfast, she started clearing and sweeping on the ground floor. And then she moved up to the loft over the kitchen and started brushing and dusting and sweeping. And over by the gable of the house, she pulled out an old dust-laden net that hadn't been touched for years. When she pulled it out, there in a cubbyhole on the wall, for the first time in 7 years, she saw her copying film, her enchanted cap. And an overpowering longing came over her to go back to the land under the sea and see her own people, her father, her mother, her brothers and sisters. Then she thought of Seanachie and the children. And she was pulled and tugged. But says she, "'Twill be a short visit. I'll be back before he knows I'm rightly gone." And with that, she grabbed the copying through, down the stairs, and as she went to go out the door, she doubled back to the cradle where the youngest child was asleep. And a tear trembled for a while in her eye, and then dropped onto the baby's cheek. She wiped it away, and telling the oldest child to take care of the young one, she headed for the seashore. And as she got close to it, in that morning sun, the waves were heaving and glittering, and a faint fairy music came up through the waves, luring her back to her home. She put the copying crick on her head and dived down. Seanachie returned from the fair of Tralee. He sold the cows. He celebrated. He had a few jorums of whiskey. And when he got home, he was hungry. But there was no dinner before him, and worse still, there was no wife. The children said she went out in the morning and didn't come back. An old woman across the way said, "I saw her," says she, "heading for the seashore with a thing like a cocked hat in her hand." Seanachie doubled back to the house, and like a man distracted, he ran up the stairs and he ran to the cubbyhole of the gable. It was gone. And calling the eldest young fellow with him, they ran to the grey rock. But there was no trace of her at the grey rock, nor was there ever a trace of her again. But she didn't forget Seanachie and the children. For every Sunday morning at dawn, a little seaweed purse with a shining gold guinea was left on top of that rock. And the young fellow that collected that money every Sunday morning was now the old man that was stretched in death at that wake that I attended near the town of Dingle. There's my story for you. And if there's a lie in it, wasn't I put it there?